if someone comes up to you and a criminal case है where it could be anything, let's not get into the details, but deep down you know कि ये इंसान guilty है. I know it is always innocent until proven guilty, but I think इतने criminals को, इतने नॉन क्रिमिनल्स को देखने के बाद आप ये तो अनुमान लगा सकते हो फर्स्ट फेस वैल्यू से कि ये इंसान गिल्टी है या नहीं है. इफ यू हैव अ गट फीलिंग एंड अ वेरी स्ट्रॉन्ग गट फीलिंग, वुड यू स्टिल टेक अप द केस?
Well, of course, yes. Because we are under an oath, and the way a doctor would never refuse a patient, irrespective कि वो patient कौन से background से आ रहा है, whether that patient is a criminal or not. Similarly, the lawyer's work is to defend and or defend or prosecute a person. So judge करना judge का काम है. So it's better that we leave it to the judge and we do our own work. Baki, whatever is there in the fate of that person, if he has to be acquitted, he will be acquitted. If he has to be convicted, he will be convicted. So we leave it to the court.
तो जैसे नॉर्मल ह्यूमंस में कॉन्शियस आ जाता है, तो इफ दैट कम्स इन बिटवीन, हाउ डू यू हैंडल दैट? अगर कभी ऐसा होता है कि कॉन्फ्लिक्ट ऑफ इंटरेस्ट आ गया कि हाँ इस इंसान को बचाना भी है, बट जो हमारी पूरी लाइफ की टीचिंग्स मिली है, जो घर से मिली है, जो समाज से मिली है, जो हमने खुद ने बनाई है, उस चीज़ में वो फिट इन नहीं होता है. बिकॉज वी, अगर आपको पता है कि किसी ने मर्डर किया है, ऑब्वियसली यू वुडंट बी फ्रेंड्स विद दैट गाय. तो क्या आप स्टिल उस इंसान का जब केस लेंगे तो ये कॉन्शियस से कैसे आप अपने डील करते हैं?
I think that comes with experience. When you are young, आपके conscience आपको बहुत ज़्यादा hit करेंगे. But the more you get experience in this profession, and the more professional you become. Because as I gave you the example of a doctor, the doctor would not, if a patient comes with a bullet injury, that patient may be a victim, that patient may be a victim from a bullet fired by a police officer, right? So the doctor cannot discriminate between whether that person is a police officer or a victim, or the person is a person who is a criminal, a dreaded criminal, and who has been shot in probably a possible encounter. That doctor will definitely treat that patient. So similarly for us, the biggest responsibility is to defend the person in the court. And every person, mind you, every person has got the right of audience. For example, a very recent example of Ajmal Kasab. Ajmal Kasab को भी डिफेंड करने के लिए सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने एक बहुत ही एक स्टॉलवर्ट को रखा था when the matter was being heard in the Supreme Court. So even he was defended. So the story of Ajmal Kasab was presented before the court. Later that was not accepted. That's a separate issue.
Right.
So every person has a right of audience through a lawyer. And why I say through a lawyer is because the expertise to deal with the cases at hand is there with the lawyer. A layman would not know the nitty-gritties of, say, the Evidence Act or the Procedure Code or the Indian Penal Code or different other laws in a person under which a person may have been charged. So the lawyer has the expertise how to break that case and defend that particular person. So rest I always stand by this, that I am not a judge, I am a lawyer. So let the judge do his work and let me do my work.
What is that one skill जो लॉ कॉलेज में नहीं सिखाया जाता, बट इट इज़ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट व्हेन इट कम्स टू इंडियन कोर्ट्स? मेरा बैकग्राउंड भी लॉ का है. आई स्टडीड लॉ फॉर 1 year एंड देन आई ड्रॉप्ड आउट. बट मेरे जो सीनियर्स थे, दे यूज्ड टू डू मूड कोर्ट्स एंड वी यूज्ड टू टॉक, एंड व्हेन दे स्टार्टेड प्रैक्टिसिंग, तो मेरी तो फील्ड चेंज हो गई थी. बट उनसे जब बात करता था तो वो बोलते थे यार बहुत डिफरेंस है. बट व्हेन आई यूज्ड टू आस्क देम, वो समझा नहीं पाते थे कि लॉ कॉलेज में ऐसा क्या जो प्रैक्टिसिंग में नहीं. दे ऑलवेज यूज्ड टू बी लाइक, अरे अलग है भाई, तू नहीं समझेगा, यहाँ की चीज़ें अलग है, तूने कॉलेज कंप्लीट करता तो पता होता. तो टेल मी द मेजर 5 मेजर डिफरेंसेस या फिर 5 मेजर प्रॉब्लम्स जो कि एक लॉ कॉलेज स्टूडेंट फेस करता है when he enters the world of law?
I would rather put it when a student enters or becomes a lawyer.
Right.
The 5 major things that he may face from my personal experiences,
Right.
I think the most important thing that needs to be taught
Mhm.
in a law school is patience. And I am talking as a lawyer who is practicing in the courts, not as an in-house counsel, not as a lawyer who is working in a law firm. Things may differ there, but specifically as a lawyer who is going to the courts on a daily basis, मेरे हिसाब से पेशेंस सबसे इम्पॉर्टेंट चीज़ है जो एक स्टूडेंट को सिखाना बहुत ज़रूरी है. एंड बिकॉज दिस प्रोफेशन डिमांड्स you to be patient and calm and stick to your work. Initial days में शायद आपको कोर्ट्स में अपीयर होने को भी नहीं मिलेगा. Maybe.
Why is that?
Because you are not experienced. A lawyer grows with experience. And initial days में I remember that I would be going to the courts to seek a passover or an adjournment. I would not get serious cases to argue. And that will not happen because I do not have that experience, that expertise to kind of mold my arguments at situations where the court may put a question for which I'm not prepared. And this all these things comes with some sort of an experience. So I think patient hona बहुत ज़रूरी है इस प्रोफेशन में. Secondly, if you are into court practice, if you are going frequently to the courts and you are arguing counsel or you wish to become an arguing counsel, I think you need to stay grounded in this profession. That's very, very important. And that's from my experience, I'm saying again, आपको हर तरीके के केसेस को हैंडल करना आना चाहिए. I would quote the great Ram Jethmalani in this. Once I was attending his lecture and he once happened to say this, and this actually touched me, and I have kept it as a mool mantra in my whatever little growth I have had in this profession, is that no court is too small and no case is too big. And you can put it vice versa actually. No court is too big and no case is too small.
Too small.
And why I say so is because there will be times as a lawyer when you are fresh into this profession. Of course, because you are young and you are new in this profession, you may not be getting that amount of fees which you can demand maybe 10, 20 years later. So there will be cases where you may have to do it pro bono. And by pro bono, I mean not charging any fees or maybe a very nominal fees.
Could you, in one line, explain for our viewers what is pro bono?
Pro bono is something which a person does free of cost for a person who is, for a client who is from the financially weaker section.
So is there a government regulation?
No, there is no regulation. There is no regulation as such. No, there is no regulation as such. But as a lawyer, my father used to say this often, and he said that, as lawyers, a client would come to you when that person is in distress. जब वो कोई मुसीबत में होता है, या फिर उसके साथ या तो उसने कोई क्राइम किया हो या कोई गलत किया हो या फिर उसके साथ कुछ गलत हुआ हो. तब भी मुसीबत में दोनों टाइम पे आता है. And that time, whatever fees you charge, you end up charging a lot of negative negative emotion is attached to it. A person would not want to go to the courts and fight a battle with another person. So the money you make, how do you make it good? How do you make it into a positive energy? And that's by doing a lot of pro bono work to help people who are probably from the weaker sections. And as a practice, I do adopt this. In that few cases, I would definitely do pro bono or charge a very nominal fees, which is nothing for me. It's like peanuts for me. But for the client, it is something which is huge. For example, Supreme Court में आने के लिए a normal client would have to shell a lot of money. But there will be instances when a client would come with from a very weak financial background. And for that, you may not charge that person that much. Or you may do it for free. We have legal aid clinics set up in different courts. Okay. the clients can definitely reach out to the legal aid sections of those. Every court has a legal aid, right from the district court till the Supreme Court. So that is another way that the courts provide you pro bono services. And so that nobody goes, like what you asked me previously, nobody goes to the court without getting defended.
Right.
But at the same time, as a lawyer also, I think it's a duty and a responsibility for every lawyer to help people from the financial weaker sections of the society. So I think staying grounded is, and coming back to the question, staying grounded is extremely important, because when you are a fresh lawyer, fresh law graduate, you might meet clients who are not able to get the kind of lawyers that they are expecting to because of the financial constraints. And उन situations में आप उनको help कर सकते हैं. And that can only happen if you are grounded. If you are grounded to the reality कि everybody cannot shell out lakhs and lakhs of rupees to fight their case. There will be people in the society who do not have any source of income. And maybe those cases will teach you the maximum. And I've had a personal experience where I have done cases where the case was so tricky, but the client was extremely poor.
Give us an example.
I would not, because the financial constraint that person faced and was situational.
Okay.
Because he was once a very reputed builder.
Okay.
From the real estate industry. I would not like to name him. And that person had multiple litigations.
Okay.
And it was a kind of a riches to rags story. So he had multiple matters, multiple cases, starting from a check bounce case to FIRs to civil cases, civil suits for recovery, to winding up petitions. That time we had winding up. अभी insolvency and bankruptcy code आ चुका है. So उस time winding up petitions बहुत फाइल होते थे. उसकी कंपनी के winding up के लिए cases फाइल हो रहे थे. Okay. And they did not have the kind of financial backing that would require them to sustain all these cases. But I saw it as an opportunity, because I felt that no, this will teach me a lot. And I was fresh into this profession. 3 या 4 साल हुए थे मुझे. So I took up those cases, and actually with the research, while facing the courts, the judges, I ended up learning a lot, which in turn helped me grow as a lawyer.
Okay. So
staying grounded is one very important quality which needs to be taught in a law school. Third, I would say is, I think, more practical based education in law schools. And it is not, if you see nowadays on OTT platforms, there are a lot of series based on a lawyer's life. And sometimes you see a lot of, drama and things that actually never happen in the courts. So it is important that a law school teaches a student a more practical based education is followed in the law schools, like what actually happens in the courts. And that helps you, because everybody would not be doing a moot court.
Right.
And moot courts are something which, we have rounds.
Moot courts are not compulsory, they are optional.
They are compulsory. But when you go to represent your college,
right.
Suppose a law college in a batch has 150 odd students. Not everybody would get an opportunity to go and moot and or participate in a moot court competition. And those things can only happen when you have a more practical based knowledge. For those students especially who are not able to crack those moot courts, they get to travel to the district courts, more importantly, because district courts is the original site practice. Original site का मतलब ये होता है कि जहाँ पे cases the origin of the case,
अच्छा,
जहाँ से originate करता है. So it's important that a law student is taught that it is not only about practicing in the high courts or the Supreme Courts. The real cases are also fought in the district courts where the trial happens. So a more practical based education system should be implemented in law schools. And I think that will help in turn a budding law student to understand the nitty-gritties of this profession.
Right.
Fourth, I think I've used 3 of them. Now fourth, I would say it's actually difficult to remember, to actually think about 5 things that needs to be taught in law school. I think confine it to 3.
Okay, perfect. These 3 are pretty good.
Yes.
You mentioned FIR while you were mentioning about the case. So let's break it down. FIR क्या है? FIR का significance क्या है? And I think most लोगों को ये पता होगा. My third question is, what if a police officer refuses to file an FIR? We have seen cases, we have heard cases. एक तो बहुत ही absurd सा चीज़ निकाला है कि किसी का फ़ोन घूम जाए तो वो बोलते हैं कि बाहर एक QR कोड लगा है, उसको स्कैन करो और उस पर कंप्लेंट डाल दो. अब जो फ़ोन ही घूम गया है तो हाउ विल समवन स्कैन द QR? एंड I saw it somewhere where a person was making a joke about it and I found it so relatable. But still, this is a serious matter. अगर कोई पुलिस वाला कंप्लेन लिखने को ही मना कर दे तो हम क्या कर सकते हैं? What can a person do in this situation?
So coming to your first question, what is an FIR? FIR, full form of it, I think many of your audience would know. It's a first information report. The first information of a crime that may have been committed. And it is in legal parlance, we say that the criminal law can be set into motion by anyone. By that, what I mean is, if some crime has been committed, then anyone, any person from the society can set the criminal law into motion. It need not be that he is affected by that crime, only then he can set that in motion. It can be anyone. So the first information report is to the police that this thing has happened. And of course, everybody would know what is a crime. Now, what if a police officer refuses to lodge an FIR?
Right.
Because initial में क्या होता है कि we always lodge a complaint. After the complaint, if it is a cognizable offense in which the police can take cognizance and can take note of that offense, then the police will immediately register an FIR. Or there are situations where the police may investigate. For example, commercial disputes में. So जहाँ पे आप 420 generally आप देखते हैं 420, 406 of the IPC, they are usually straight jacket formula में उसको लगा दिया जाता है. So in those situations, the police may go and investigate. Similarly, you may come across these articles in the newspapers that 498A, where a wife files a complaint against a husband and her in-laws. Those cases are grossly being abused by the complainants. So in those cases also, now the police will have to first investigate.
Okay.
So after investigation, the police may not want to lodge an FIR. That is one situation. There is another situation where the police refuse to lodge an FIR at all.
Because maybe उन्होंने या तो सामने वाली पार्टी से पैसे ले लिए हैं या whatever it could be the reason. We cannot deny that it happens in India.
Corruption, there is corruption.
Yes.
And there is corruption to a great level in our police of all the states probably in India. And if in both the situations, suppose the police refuses to lodge an FIR, there is a procedure wherein you can get the FIR lodged from the court. पहले CRPC था, where we would usually file an application under section 156 subsection 3 of the CRPC. FIR usually is under section 154 of the CRPC.
Achha.
And once if the police refuses, then 156.3 is adopted. Current BNSS में I think it's 175.3 of the of the BNSS. जहाँ पे पुलिस अगर FIR lodge नहीं करती है, then you can approach the local magistrate, judicial magistrate, the court, and request or make a plea that the complaint may be sent to the police for the registration of an FIR.
Okay, so you would need a lawyer for this, right?
Of course, you would need a lawyer for this who would go and argue why this case is made out and why the police is not registering an FIR. Now there were some guidelines, because this provision was also being misused by many, because they would never go to the police and they would straight away knock the doors of the magistrate and get a case registered against XYZ person. Now there was a direction, there was a guideline in Priyanka Srivastava versus State of UP by the Supreme Court, which said that if the police has refused to register an FIR, then you have to mandatorily give an affidavit along with your application before the magistrate that the police has refused to register an FIR, and also give the copy of that complaint that you made to the police, the respective local police station.
And पुलिस को कंपल्सरीली वो कंप्लेंट लेना ही पड़ता है, रिसीविंग देनी पड़ती है?
देनी पड़ती है. कई बार पुलिस रिसीविंग नहीं देती है फॉर द पीपल जो ऐसी सिचुएशंस फेस करते हैं. बहुत सारे डिस्ट्रिक्ट्स में इस तरीके का एक सिस्टम बनाया गया है जहां एसएसपी ऑफिसेस में जो शिकायत कोषांग हम कहते हैं, और द कंप्लेंट सेल, इस तरीके से कंप्लेंट सेल्स बने हुए हैं. इफ द लोकल पुलिस स्टेशन रिफ्यूजेस टू टेक योर एफआईआर और गिव अ रिसीविंग टू दैट पर्टिकुलर कंप्लेंट दैट यू हैव मेड, you can always put it before the Shikayat Koshang or the complaint cell of that particular district, before the SSP's office, and they would definitely give you a computer generated receiving to that.
Okay, that is compulsory, वो मिलेगा ही.
वो आपको मिलेगा ही as a proof. क्योंकि कल को आप अगर पुलिस ने रजिस्टर नहीं किया, आप 156(3) पे कोर्ट में जाते हैं, तो कोर्ट में आपको कुछ ना कुछ प्रूफ दिखाना होगा. Otherwise, you can also send your complaint by post.
Okay.
And sending a complaint by post is also valid proof. Speed post के थ्रू आप भेज सकते हैं. अगर पुलिस रिसीव कर लेती है, of course they will have to receive.
They'll have to receive it.
It will be delivered. So that will be evidence enough to show the court that you had made the complaint legitimately before the police, and the police refused to take any action.
Okay.
And e-FIRs आजकल आ चुके हैं, e-complaints आ चुके हैं. बहुत सारे, I mean in Delhi it is pretty much in practice, where you can make a complaint through digital mode by logging into the websites, and still I would say there are many districts that do not have such kind of a facility. ये इतने technologically advanced नहीं है. उन districts में definitely this is the practice that can be easily followed, so that the litigant does not suffer. The genuine litigants, they don't suffer. So I think I would add on to this. Probably you wanted to know what all are there in the FIR also. The FIR would be prima facie, जो हम कहते हैं, जो primarily जो complaint है वो आप उस पे लिखते हैं. Of course, an FIR cannot be an encyclopedia. It cannot contain all the nitty-gritties, all the details. But yes, the basic detailing of the first information that you have. And that needs to be put across in the FIR. उसके बाद police will record your statements. In that statement, you can detail the entire, facts and situations that may have led to this FIR.
So if I'm not wrong, documentation process होता है FIR, then statements, then police thinks and decides कि उसको charge sheet file करनी है कि नहीं.
नहीं, हाँ, you can say so. Once the FIR is registered, then the statements are taken, then the police will definitely investigate.
Okay.
Charge sheet police will file. Either it will file a closure report that there is no case that is made out, or it will say that no, these are the sections under which this person may be tried.
FIR के बाद भी closure report बनाई जा सकती है?
बिल्कुल बनाई जा सकती है. If there is no case that is made out, then the police can always file a closure report.
और ये time duration कितना होता है? कंपल्सरी डेट होती है कि इस दिन तक आपको या तो चार्ज शीट या तो क्लोजर रिपोर्ट फाइल करनी ही है, ताकि एक ऑडियंस को अनुमान लग जाए कि अच्छा अगर हमने FIR इस दिन रजिस्टर करी है तो वी कैन वेट टिल वी गो टू द कोर्ट एंड टेल कि कोई एक्शन नहीं लिया जा रहा है बिकॉज चार्ज शीट या फिर क्लोजर रिपोर्ट कुछ भी फाइल नहीं हुआ है.
See, technically, if there is a punishment which is of 7 years or less, then it has to be done within 60 days.
Okay.
7 years or more, then 90 days. But there are situations where, and especially if these procedures are not followed and that person is in custody, अगर किसी को custody में ले लिया गया है, some person has been arrested, then if it is 7 years or less, the punishment in that particular FIR, the sections जिसमें allegations लगे हैं,
जी,
then that person can pray for a default bail. That is usually under section 167(2) of the CRPC. And if it is 7 years or more, and in 90 days time period, there is no charge sheet that has been filed, then that particular accused can also pray for a default bail before that particular court, that 90 days have expired and there is no charge sheet that has been filed, so I may be released on default bail. So
And
these
the
are the
court does accept it.
Of course, that has to be.
almost
That's a
every
mandatory
time?
provision under the CRPC.
Okay.
So it is not that the discretion would come into play. That
Mhm.
usually bail it is the discretion of the court.
Mhm.
We do not have a bail act like we have the European countries, like UK has a bail act.
Mhm.
India does not have a bail act, a statute that defines that when a bail can be granted or when it
ऐसा
cannot
कोई
be granted.
डॉक्यूमेंट एग्जिस्ट ही नहीं करता है जो क्लियरली बताए कि किस हिसाब से बेल मिलनी चाहिए, किस हिसाब से नहीं.
There is no law as such.
Okay.
Yes, there is no statute as such which explains so.
तो ये जज टू जज डिपेंड होता है.
It is a discretion of the court.
Okay.
That is why often you would आप कई बार सुने होंगे, as far as bail is concerned, from a magistrate to the judge of the Honorable Supreme Court, they have almost similar powers as far as bail is concerned,
Mhm.
and that is a discretion of the court.
Okay.
So if the court feels that there is no reason for him to be kept in the custody, the court may grant bail. And if the court feels that no, he may, so triple test ratio, the triple test ratio that we have in bails, that is, if he is at flight risk, in the sense that वो भाग सकता है इंडिया से या from the jurisdiction of the court, or if he is going to tamper with the evidences, or if he may influence the witnesses, and there is reasonable apprehension. And एक fourth principle भी आजकल apply करती है court, the seriousness of the offense that has been alleged. So in चारों situations को देखते हुए court may exercise the discretion and grant that person bail or deny the bail application.
I think I'm privileged to have many good lawyers like you in my touch, जिससे
I hope so I'm good enough.
I don't need to be scared. But अभी हम बात कर रहे थे about bail. तो अगर एक झूठा केस फाइल हो जाता है and you are still out, but you know कि केस फाइल हो चुका है, में कोई सा भी रीजन है जिससे आपको पता है कि केस फाइल हो चुका है, कभी भी अरेस्ट हो सकता है, और अब जो इंसान लॉ के बारे में नहीं जानता, जिसको इतने लॉयर्स टच में नहीं है उसके, क्या उसको केस को डिसमिस के लिए अप्लाई करना चाहिए, उसको एंटिसिपेटरी बेल लेनी चाहिए या नहीं लेनी चाहिए? और क्योंकि एंटिसिपेटरी के भी प्रॉस एंड कॉन्स होते हैं. आई हर्ड फ्रॉम अ लॉयर कि आप कहीं ना कहीं एक साइन दे ही देते हो कि आई एम गिल्टी, इसलिए दिस माइट बी रॉन्ग, माइट बी राइट. तो टेल मी कि एक इंसान क्या कर सकता है जब उसके ऊपर झूठा केस फाइल हो गया है और उसको पता है फ्रॉम दैट स्टेप ऑनवर्ड्स टिल हिज अरेस्ट, मे बी आफ्टर हिज अरेस्ट, ऐसा क्या एक SOP है कि हाँ आप ये 5-7 चीजें करो and you will get a good legal aid and a chance of justice?
I think this I always tell to my friends, my family. It is very important for the first part of the question that सबको नहीं, शायद नहीं पता होगा एक लीगल सिस्टम कैसे फंक्शन करता है. It is very important that in our schools we have basic elementary legal education. Not only teach about, we need a lot of we need to learn about the history, the geography, the sciences are there, but at the same time legal education is also extremely important. And unfortunately none of the schools, we have a curriculum, we don't have a curriculum in the schools as far as as far as the schools are concerned, wherein law is taken up as a subject. Or basic elementary legal education is a subject. Not as far as I am aware of. Maybe मुझे स्कूल से पास आउट किए हुए बहुत टाइम हो गया, so maybe there is some kind of
think AI has been started, but I don't think any school would be doing law as a subject.
Yes,
for
law
any
is,
class.
Law is not there as a subject, and especially if you go to the bigger cities, you will see amongst the students in the school, they are more eager to join the legal profession.
Right.
Smaller cities, I come from a very small city. I come from but a beautiful city of Jamshedpur.
Okay.
And which is in Jharkhand. I can hardly think of people from my batch who chose to get into this profession. So and we never had anything of wherein basic elementary legal education was provided to us as students. So first of all, it is important that हमारे करिकुलम में we implement such paradigm shift is
Right.
there, and there is this kind of basic education with regard to law, and especially आपने जैसे बताया कि what happens if a crime is committed, a person does not know what to do, and which is a very legit question. So at least these things should be taught in schools, that this is how you go about it.
ठीक है.
Now coming to your this was kind of a prelude to your question. Now, as far as people who are
In present tense, right.
totally unaware about how the system functions, of course, going to a lawyer nowadays, we have the legal industry is growing at a very rapid pace.
Right.
The number of law schools that I see now, from the time since I passed out, and 2025 today, it's huge. And every, I think, city has at least 10 different law schools running. And I'm talking by city, I mean the tier 2, tier 1, tier 2 cities, and maybe some tier 3 cities also.
Right.
Of course, they can approach a lawyer very easily. The approachability has become better. There are different websites that provide you people. I mean, you can connect to a lawyer and find, and a simple search on the search engines available to you. It can help you find out. That apart, I think, as I mentioned earlier, we have legal aid in different courts, and very competent lawyers who wish to serve the society. They join this force wherein the legal aid is provided to people like these who are not aware. So legal aid can always be a method wherein a person जिनको कुछ नहीं पता, मेरे ऊपर केस हो गया है, and they can still get the benefits or the advice of a lawyer. Now, if there is a false case registered against someone, that is your situation that you
Right.
gave me, the first thing that person can do is either you go to the High Court, and this, by false case, I mean a criminal case.
Right.
Right? You can go to the High Court, and earlier in the CRPC, there was a provision under Section 482, wherein the inherent powers of the High Court, a lot of times, a lot of people refer to 482 as quashing petition. It is not quashing. It is inherent powers of the High Court, which gives the High Court powers to quash any proceeding which, to the High Court, is an abuse of the process of law. Right? BNSS mein, the same provision is under Section 528 of the BNSS. And you can always go to the High Court and immediately get that case quashed. Of course, by immediately I mean that the High Court would not quash the case without hearing the other side. The High Court will hear the other side, and only after that the case can be quashed. That apart, one very good development that has happened with this new law that has come into existence, the BNSS, in which if the person chooses not to go to the High Court for finishing of the case at one go, and chooses to go for a trial, then if it is proved during the trial that the person the case was a false case, the person who filed that false case can always be implicated, and a separate proceeding can be initiated against him.
Manhani, if I'm not wrong.
Defamation is something else. For giving false evidence, for lodging a false case, the BNSS has different provisions today, जहाँ पे इस तरह के complaints को और complainants को deal किया जाता है. So now that acts as a deterrence, wherein if you file a false case, you may also be at the peril of getting prosecuted. So that is, I think, a very, very positive development as far as the new laws are concerned, the BNSS is concerned. Yes.
Right. इसमें सर यू मेंशन द लॉयर्स, इसलिए मैं ये सवाल पूछ रहा हूँ कि थोड़ा सा अनएथिकल प्रैक्टिस करते हैं कुछ लॉयर्स इन टायर 3, टायर 4 सिटीज़, वेयर एक ये सिचुएशन है मेरे सामने कि एक इंसान एक चेम्बर लेके है, एंड एक डिवोर्स केस था, वेरी टोल्ड कि 10,000 रुपये लगेंगे जिसमें मैं पूरा आपका करा दूंगा. अब उनको 10,000 रुपये दिए. ये किसी और ने मुझे बोला कि 10,000 उनको पूरे पड़ते नहीं है, वो आगे आपसे या तो अलग पार्टी से बात करके वो पैसा रिकवर करेंगे, या तो आपको कोई झूठ बात बोल के पैसा रिकवर करेंगे. व्हेन आई आस्क्ड कि ये 10,000 जो कोट किए गए थे, अगर वो पहले ही 50 बोल देते तो वी वुड हैव गिवन 50. और बात ख़त्म हो जाती। तो वहाँ उन्होंने बोला कि अगर वो आपको बता देते तो उसके पास वाला उसका कस्टमर छीन लेता, द लॉयर सिटिंग एडजेसेंट टू हिम, एंड न्यूमरस लॉयर्स हो गए, जैसे आपने बताया लीगल ये वाला ग्रो कर रहा है। तो हाउ एज अ अपकमिंग लॉयर यू कैन बिल्ड ट्रस्ट, दिस इज माई फर्स्ट क्वेश्चन, कि अगर आप जस्ट लॉ स्कूल से निकले हो और वो आपका ये पॉडकास्ट देख रहा है, तो वो ट्रस्ट कैसे बिल्ड कर सके अमॉन्ग पीपल। सेकेंड, फॉर द पीपल ऑन द अदर साइड ऑफ द टेबल, कि वो लॉयर पे किस हिसाब से भरोसा करें अगर कोई रेफरेंस नहीं है तो।
I think integrity is something which cannot be bought.
It is subjective.
It is subjective. It only comes with time. आप जितना अपना जूता घिसेंगे इस प्रोफेशन में, जितना लोग आपको जानेंगे कि हाँ ये लॉयर है, कि ये अपना इंटेग्रिटी नहीं बेच सकता.
Right.
And that is how you build your trust. And trust is also with time. And once a client approaches you, it is the manner in which you deal with that client. It is अगर आप उसको बड़ी बड़ी बातें बोलोगे, and I mean it's again subjective. But if you tell that client the truth, that this is what the position of your case is, but yes, I can fight it out. That is the first step towards building that trust. That is from my personal experience. And I think it is very important to be open to your client, to give updates to your client. Yes, corruption is everywhere. Unfortunately, it is also there in our profession. And there are lawyers. And because now the legal news is very easily available. It's different media houses specializing in the legal sector. They are giving you updates on WhatsApp. You can, become a part of that and take the membership of that particular media house. And you will get updates. I'm sure you must have seen that where lawyers have been reprimanded by the Supreme Court, by the High Courts, and contempt actions have been initiated against them.
Okay.
Under the Advocates Act, complaints have been initiated against them, and there have been numerous instances where such instances such things have happened, and the lawyers also lost their enrollment, their bar council licenses. So these things have happened in the past, and I'm sure this will always happen in future also, because you cannot clean the system completely.
Right.
And I think for that, the litigant needs to be aware about his or her rights. And there are rights under the Advocates Act where a complaint can be lodged against such an erring lawyer before the State Bar Council. If that does not materialize, that person can always challenge it before the Bar Council of India. And if that also doesn't happen, nothing happens there also, then the client can also come to the Supreme Court. So there is appeal provisions given to a person under the Advocates Act. Now, as far as a young lawyer trying to build a trust with a prospective client, I would say, I think it's important that that young lawyer does not mix, his words, and is very clear and open to that client. It's very important to have clarity in this profession. And if you are honest with your client, it will show. Very first meeting that you have, it will show. You may not know everything, every provision. Its law is vast, and you may not know a certain query that your client may have. So it's better to say openly that, okay, I need to research on this. There is no harm in accepting that you are not aware of a particular provision of law which your client may have wanted to know. And you may just take some time and research on this and then give a feedback that this is what exactly the law is. So that these things actually builds that trust and confidence in a client. And ultimately, we all are human beings. So the more we open up, the more clarity we have. It's a day-to-day practice. आप राह चलते हुए आप किसी से रास्ता पूछो, अगर वो ओपनली आपको कहे कि हाँ मुझे ठीक से नहीं पता रास्ता बता, and then you would trust that person, right? बट एक बंदा आता है, वो आपको कहता है कि नहीं, अब दुनिया भर की चीज़ें बताता है, and he sends you on a wrong destination. So trust is gone.
पर फिर उसमें मैं उस इंसान से रास्ता पूछूंगा भी नहीं ना, मैं तो दूसरे आदमी के पास चले जाऊंगा, तो क्लाइंट तो चले गया.
नहीं, क्लाइंट जरूरी नहीं जाए. मतलब यही मैं कह रहा हूँ, अगर क्लाइंट गया दैट्स योर फेट.
अच्छा.
You may not know. That's what I'm saying. That आप is in spite of not knowing, it's better not to give a wrong advice.
Right.
It's better to first read and then advise your client. आप गलत advice देके तो आपने और बदनामी कर ली ना.
आप थोड़ी मीटिंग लेटर के लिए सेट कर सकते हैं.
बिल्कुल.
Anything
can happen. See, suppose if a client comes to me and I am not aware of a particular provision of the law, which maybe I'm not dealing with, and I say I end up saying different things to the client. The client, suppose he's slightly well read, he would understand that I am just bluffing.
Right.
I'm just beating around the bush. So he would never come back to me in any case. But on the contrary, if I take some time and I get back to him with a thorough research, he would say, okay, this man works. He worked hard.
He knows his...
Yes, he knows that he didn't shy away from accepting that he was not aware. And then he would definitely trust me the next time. And suppose I tell him I start bluffing and I start beating around the bush. Tomorrow he will go out and tell this about me to 10 other people.
Right.
And that would eventually give me bad name and a loss of profit. Because the prospective client would anyway be gone. At the same time, he would also bring 10 other people who could have joined him. Also not to go with me as a lawyer. Or maybe not recommend me as a lawyer.
Right. Divorce cases आज के टाइम पर बस द मेल काउंटर पार्ट सेज कि लो इतने पैसे लो और अलग हो जाओ. एंड जब ये मेल कम्युनिटी एक्सेप्ट कर चुकी थी कि ये लॉ है जहाँ हमको एलिमनी और मेंटेनेंस देना है, वहाँ पर आई एम श्योर यू मस्ट बी अवेयर ऑफ द absurd amount of alimonies and maintenance asked by the wife. And sometimes हम लोग रील्स में भी देखते हैं कि जज इज क्वेश्चनिंग एंड जज इज आर्ग्यूइंग, बट स्टिल वो अगर हायर कोर्ट में जाएगी, वो दूसरे जज के लिए, मे बी जज चेंज के लिए, आई डोंट नो क्या प्रोसेस होता है, बट अगर वो चीज़ हो, एनी विच वे शी गेट्स व्हाट शी वांट्स. द वर्ल्ड नोज, द जज नोज, द लॉयर्स नो कि ये गलत हो रहा है. तो व्हाई इज अ जज नॉट एबल टू टेक दैट एक्शन और उस चीज़ को एक लिमिट पे तय कर दे कि हाँ, एक इंसान का इतना खर्चा बनता है महीने का, तुम काम कर रहे हो नहीं कर रहे हो उस हिसाब से, और एक मेंटेनेंस जिससे तुम्हारी लाइफ एक सेट हो जाए. तो ये तो प्रीफेस हो गया क्वेश्चन का. इफ आई हैव टू आस्क 2 क्वेश्चंस ऑन दिस टॉपिक, वन इज, ये इसका एक फिक्स्ड नॉर्म क्यों नहीं है कि हर इंसान को इतना खर्चा लगता है, अगर उसके पास सैलरी है तो इतना और नहीं सैलरी है तो इतना. साथ ही साथ एलिमनी should be fixed, I feel, because जिस लेवल का, आई थिंक आई हैव हर्ड दिस अ लॉट, कि जिस लेवल का लाइफ आप दे रहे थे उस लेवल का लाइफ अब मैं जीना चाहती हूँ, तो उसके लिए साथ भी तो रहना पड़ेगा ना. इसलिए वो लेवल का लाइफ दे रहा था, वरना वो अब अपनी बीवी को देगा, तुमको क्यों देगा इफ यू आर सीकिंग डिवोर्स. तो इन लेमैन टर्म्स ये हर किसी का सवाल है. एंड आप कितने भी केसेस देख लो, हस्बैंड्स आर डूइंग सुसाइड्स and male rights activism is increasing. Somewhere I feel ये need है. तो क्या रीज़न है कि इतने absurd demands भी पूरे कर दिए जाते हैं? And as a man, if you have to give him a 5-step या 2-step या 3-step protocol, बोले अगर फेक डाउरी का केस हो रहा है, एलिमनी का केस हो रहा है, तो अपने आप को इतना सेव कर लो कि ये मिनिमम अमाउंट तक ही जाना हो. You won't need to exceed it. तो what are the hacks? I'm clearly asking for hacks. कि अगर आधे आदमी शादी कर रहा है, उसको लगता है कि 2-3 साल बाद कुछ हो सकता है, who knows? The world is an unpredictable place. वो कैसे इससे बाहर निकलेगा और कैसे अपना एक प्रोटोकॉल बना के रखेगा जिससे उसके ऊपर कभी भी फेक केसेस नहीं लग पाए, कोई कभी भी उसके ऊपर किसी चीज़ का मिसयूज ना हो पाए. और ऐसा होता ही क्यों है जो प्रेजेंट केसेस में हो रहा है, जहाँ सुसाइड्स वगैरह हो रहे हैं, तो ये व्हाई इज दिस अ लूप होल इन द लॉ स्टिल?
It's very unfortunate, whatever suicide cases that you are referring to, unfortunate that it happened in the first place. I personally felt very bad reading about those cases, and especially where one allegation was made against a sitting family court judge, that she was the one who pressurized in the suicide note. Is not something which is coming from me, but from the suicide note that was recovered from the deceased.
Right.
It is extremely unfortunate. At the same time, to say that the courts are not doing enough is also not correct. मैं आज का ही example दे रहा हूँ. I was before appearing before a certain court in the Supreme Court of India, and there was a conflict with regard to the alimony. And the honorable judges asked, they put this question to the lawyer who was representing the wife, and about her financial status, as in what she's doing, where is she working. And it was revealed that she's in a very good company. It's a big company, multinational company, and she's in a very good post. So the court immediately said that no, then that this demand is unreasonable. And it chastised that particular counsel, the lawyer who was representing the wife. And it said that you come with a very reasonable solution to this. And it is the court which is actually taking a lot of measures to stop this menace of, demanding of a humongous amount of alimony. But at the same time, to completely put this blame on all the wives who are suffering, all the people, women who are actually going through a matrimonial dispute is completely incorrect. Because there are genuine cases.
Right.
And there are multiple divorce cases that are pending across the country. And it is not just one divorce case. Actually, one matrimonial dispute happens, and that gives rise to multiple other litigations. So if, like the Supreme Court nowadays, they exercise their powers and they finish off all the cases at one go. If usually a divorce case has been filed by the husband, the normal practice is the wives would seek for a transfer of that case. From one and transfer petitions are filed in the Supreme Court where the transfer is sought from one state to another, right? And similarly, transfer petitions are also filed in the High Court where the transfer is sought from one district to another of that particular state.
Okay.
So the Supreme Court in such situations, they exercise their powers under Article 142, and of course subject to the fact that both the parties sit together. They have a mediation. Mediation is a amicable settlement. They arrive at an amicable settlement, and the Supreme Court exercises its powers, and it finishes off all the cases, be it the divorce case or any criminal complaint or a domestic violence case or a maintenance case that may have been filed. So, if from one matrimonial dispute, there are 4 or 5 litigations that can crop up. So the Supreme Court exercises its powers and finishes off all the cases at one go, and also grants divorce. So that is one way that the judiciary is stepping in. Secondly, as I mentioned, yes, it is unfortunate that such things do happen. I'm not denying, I'm not shying away from that fact. But all the cases are of a similar nature. That is also incorrect. There have been situations where I have defended the wives, and I was surprised to see the approach that they had taken. They demanded zero alimony. They demanded nothing from the husband, and they simply wanted to separate. And the reason was because there was no FIR that was lodged. There was no criminal complaint that was filed. There was no maintenance that was filed. There was simply a gap between the two partners, and the wives wanted to just simply separate, peacefully go and stop this litigation and end this relationship.
My question is, तो ये अभी जो आपने बताया this incident, ये सुन के I felt good. I'm sure Anshul felt good, and our viewers will also feel good. This is what is right. This is how it should be done. और अगर नहीं, तो फिर जिस घर में एक औरत कमा रही है और एक आदमी घर में है, तो क्या ऐसा लॉ एग्जिस्ट करता है जहाँ आदमी एलिमनी एक्सपेक्ट कर सकता है, मेंटेनेंस मांग सकता है?
See, law बनाना, again, it is not the work of the judiciary. It is for the legislature to decide and make laws.
But we have seen this thing, judicial outreach, and because of the social media, maybe it was same scale पे हो रहा था पहले, but because of the social media आज हर किसी को पता है. This was one of my questions, but हम इसी में ले लेते हैं कि judicial outreach हो रहा है, where you said कि हाँ judiciary कर रहा है. But अगर judicial outreach अगर हो ही रहा है and everything has to be right, my question is why can't it be done faster?
No, this is not judicial outreach, I would say. I don't know which case are you referring to.
No, this is a very general question कि अगर आदमी नहीं कमा रहा है और औरत कमा रही है तो आदमी एलिमनी क्यों नहीं एक्सपेक्ट कर सकता? और अगर नहीं,
because the law does not support that.
तो my questions are your viewpoints on this law, and what do you think? Is there a need for a transformation, or is there a need for a law change or reform or any kind?
With the society, the way it is expanding and growing, we can expect some kind of a situation where the law is amended to a certain extent. Yes, I do agree to this. But a
क्योंकि इंडिया में प्रीनप्स भी लीगल नहीं है.
Complete paradigm shift पे लाना, it's, I don't know if we are ready or not. I think I would rather keep it to the legislature to decide whether this law needs to be changed. Yes, to a certain extent, my conscience do say that yes, we need a change, and I hope the lawmakers they realize this. I don't know if they listen to this podcast or not, but I hope they.
I'm sure. I'll share it with one. Police brutality does exist, and आपने तो बहुत केसेस लड़े हैं for people who have faced police brutality. One such incident I would like to share with you. तो एक couple है, मेरे friends है, तो they're married and they went for a drive in a tier 3 town. I wouldn't name the city or the couple. They were driving and a police car stopped by. So the guy got out for a smoke and the police car stopped. उसको पूरा चेक किया, उसकी जेब चेक करी, गाड़ी चेक करी, without any probable cause. They were not mentioning it. Though female police नहीं था तो the female was not harassed, but I'm sure they were capable of it. And somehow the female got a hold of his phone. She called me. मैं वहाँ पहुँचा. फिर I called a lawyer. उन्होंने उनके सीनियर से बात करी because lawyer had a touch with the SI there. And then those three were suspended and everything was done. बट मुझे अगर फ़ोन नहीं करता, ये कपल के पास ऐसा कोई आदमी नहीं होता या ऐसा कोई लॉयर नहीं होता, तो अगेन कमिंग कि पुलिस ये तो मेरा क्वेश्चन ये है कि ये पूरा सीन में लीगल इलीगल पे हम बात करना चाहते हैं कि क्या मेरे दोस्त लीगल थे? गाड़ी से निकल के सिगरेट पीना, रात में ड्राइव पे जाना, अराउंड 2 बजे का समय था. क्या पुलिस लीगल साइड पे था? वॉज हिज प्रोसेस लीगल वेयर ही चेक्ड without any probable cause, without any document, without the presence of any lawyer? Or third, what legal steps can someone take? कि अगर ये हो गया है तो एक लॉयर के पास जाने के बाद इस चीज पे ऐसा क्या कर सके कि कम से कम वो 3 पुलिस वाले आगे ये गलती ना करें. तो दिस इज माय क्वेश्चन कि पुलिस लीगल थी या इलीगल थे? मेरे दोस्त जो काम कर रहे थे वो लीगल था या इलीगल था? एंड क्या स्टेप्स ले सकते हैं एज द विक्टिम सो दैट कोई और आदमी इस चीज का विक्टिम ना बने?
See, as a reasonable suspicion, if there is a reasonable suspicion that exists, then the police can stop you and search your vehicle.
Okay.
There is no stopping.
ये law exist करता है.
There is, if there is suspicion, if there is some suspicious activity that the police may see, then on suspicion it can definitely check your documents and things like that. But it can definitely not arrest you. अगर वो बिना कोई पुख्ता सबूत के या किसी चीज के आपको अरेस्ट करता है, then definitely it is police brutality.
And then जेब चेक करना, ये सब करना is also a part of the suspicion process?
No, the जेब चेक करना, as far as जेब चेक करना is concerned, the police can ask the person himself to do it.
Okay, but they don't have the right to.
They don't have the right to touch you. Okay. Directly, without any apprehension. And I think what the example that you gave, that he stepped out for a smoke. Ideally, the police should not have. But if there is any suspicious activity that they may have thought is existing at that point of time, and they can stop a vehicle and check. Coming back to the steps that you can take. If there is brutality, if there is, suppose there is an arrest, and if you have wrongly been arrested, then as far as Delhi is concerned, there is Delhi Police Punishment and Appellate Rules, which govern for such erring police officers. You can make a complaint to the Delhi Police and then an inquiry can be initiated. And if there is an illegal arrest, because arrest पे भी अभी बहुत सारे guidelines आ चुके हैं. There is Arnesh Kumar versus State of Bihar, which was a landmark judgment by the Supreme Court in 2014. Then there is Satinder Kumar Until versus the Central Bureau of Investigations. There are multiple other judgments that are being passed by different high courts, by the Supreme Court. So the police can always be taken into task. And in fact, if I'm not wrong, there was one judgment by a division bench, which means a 2-judge bench of the Delhi High Court, which also gave guidelines that if there is an illegal arrest of any kind, then you can also file an FIR for wrongful confinement against those police officers. I think it was, pardon me if I'm not able to remember the correct name, but I think Sanjay Kumar versus State of NCT of Delhi. That was a judgment. It was a division bench judgment authored by Honorable Justice then Dr. Murlidhar, and it was a wonderful judgment in which in a similar situation a person was arrested from UP without taking the consent of the or without producing him before the magistrate in that particular place in UP. And they were taken into task, or maybe vice versa. I think the person was arrested from Delhi, but the UP police had come to arrest that person in Delhi, and without producing him before the concerned magistrate, which is a mandatory provision when there is an interstate arrest, that person was taken into custody. So in that situation, the court reprimanded. The court also said that contempt can be initiated against such police officers. I am fighting such contempt cases against few erring Delhi police officers on a similar battlefield like what I mentioned in this particular case.
Right.
My client was picked up from in Uttar Pradesh by the Delhi police without him being produced before the concerned local magistrate, without informing the local police there for an offense which was less than 7 years, without serving him a notice under section 41A of the CRPC, or currently under the BNSS, it is 35 subsection 3 of the BNSS. That person was picked up and brought to a police station in Delhi. And I have filed a contempt. The court has initiated action. The initial action has been taken, and it is pending for the final arguments. So there are a lot of remedies which a person may exercise. Similarly, in one of the cases, there was a complaint that was made under the Delhi Police Punishment and Appellate Rules, and the rules provide that if there is a complaint that is made, then there has to be a preliminary inquiry by authority who has to be above the rank of the person who has been alleged in the particular offense. So if suppose the person who has committed that offense, the police officer, is a sub-inspector, then the inquiry officer has to be someone above the rank of that sub-inspector. So this is one of the norms that needs to be followed. And without following those mandatory requirements, an inquiry was conducted. My client was never called to record her statement before the police, and an order was passed.
It was a her.
It was the client is a female, yes, and the order was passed, and now we have filed a writ petition before the High Court of the Delhi High Court. So there are different ways wherein you can always speak for your rights and approach the courts and bring to the knowledge of the court such police brutality. So, and in fact, there are many landmark cases to this as far as police brutality is concerned. And there are numerous guidelines given by the Supreme Court, by different high courts.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Means a lot. Let's sign off.
Okay. Thank you, Siobhan.
Thank you.